Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading. Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot.
Hello again, and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Dale Farkas, who operates the legendary Dale Laboratories in Hollywood, Florida, one of the long-standing film and digital labs in the industry. And it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome Dale to the show. Hi, Dale. How are you today?
Fine. Thank you for the invitation.
Before we get into like the history of the company and how you started in and where you see some of the direction going, you've always had an affinity towards how things should properly be done, what you call process, having your processes down, which I think is reflected in the success of Dale Laboratories. Where did that come from? Where did you learn that from?
Well, I went to RIT, and this Rochester Institute of Technology, which most of your listeners are probably familiar with, in photographic science. And our first course was really in material and processes.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing we really learned was the difference between quality and quality control.
Right.
And this is kind of something that a lot of people aren't aware of. I'll give you an example. You can go any place in the United States and have a McDonald's hamburger, and it will be pretty much identical.
Right.
You may or may not think it's a great hamburger. That's the case of quality. But in terms of quality control and consistency, McDonald's has it.
Right.
What you want to have in a photographic laboratory is both. You want both high quality that serves your particular photographer's needs, and you want consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why having companies like Kodak providing quality control systems is really very, very useful. And what a photographic laboratory today is a situation where we essentially feeding robotic printers digital information from data.
Right.
And it's relational databases. I don't want to get wonky on this, but essentially it means just the same way you drive a car. You don't have to know what's going on in the engine. You just need your steering wheel, your accelerator, and either fill it up with gas or electricity.
Sure.
And then as an operator, you can work. Now, our technicians are able to do that. So what they provide is color balancing experience where they visually correct every image.
Right.
So if you control the variables in the process, and if you control the input, you can get the quality. And then the final check is quality control, where you check what comes out.
So let's go back a little bit to what you were saying about Kodak's position in the industry back then. Obviously, Eastman Kodak Company was the largest company in the industry, and of course, based in Rochester, New York. So, of course, they had very close ties with RIT at the time, providing the graphic arts and the photography programs, a lot of oversight. They really had to provide to the industry the information to process film as an independent, right? Because of the consent decree and a bunch of other things. At what point did you say, listen, I want to start my own thing. I want to take what I've learned and start my own laboratory?
Well, that happened by accident.
Yeah.
We've all heard the expression ready, aim, fire.
Right. Yeah.
My life is usually conducted ready, fire, aim.
Right.
Something comes up, I get some breadcrumbs, and I just react to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the laboratory started was on a wing and a dare.
Right.
I was hired out of RIT to be a supervisor in the third largest motion picture lab in the United States. The company was called Movie Lab.
Okay.
And I ended up in charge of customer complaints and troubleshooting, which is kind of what I trained in. I had one of my assistants, who was a man that was 10 years older than me, whose name was Gus.
Mm-hmm.
And Gus was one of these people who in life was never satisfied with his lot. And somebody had always done him wrong.
Right.
I used to always come back at Gus whenever he complained to me about this being wrong or that being wrong. And
kind of woe is me kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, Gus, this is America. Anybody in America can go out, start his own business, and become a millionaire. That's
Right.
the American dream. And he'd fall a little bit and say, that's not true. Well,
Right.
one day, Gus got his revenge.
Mm-hmm.
I was standing in the hallway at the laboratory, and a couple of fellows came to me and showed me an ad from a company in the West Coast in California that advertised that they were making slides on motion picture film.
Right.
And they asked me how they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a look at the ad, and I obviously knew everything about how motion picture prints are made in a motion picture lab. And I said, well, this is what they're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, well, what do you think of the idea?
Right.
Well, they have a great idea, but they're going about it all the wrong way.
Oh,
And
okay.
I explained to them what they were doing. And these guys were a bunch of hippies, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And they took out 2-page spreads in popular photography
Mm-hmm.
and spent all their time just putting down their customers,
Mm-hmm.
which is not my way of doing things, nor yours, nor most of your people who are watching this.
Right.
So Gus quipped, well, wise guy, why don't you do it yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You got me on that one, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, my wife had been a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
We had a child at home. We'd lost half our family income. And I figured, what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Why not do this ourselves? Because the deal was people would write in
Mm-hmm.
and they would get or telephone and get 2 rolls of spooled motion picture film and 35 millimeter cassettes, and then it would come through. So the idea was that I would basically process the film in the laboratory. I'd splice the rolls that came back, did it in my mother's basement.
Right.
This is literally one of those starting in a garage type stories.
Yeah, exactly. So many people have done that. Yeah.
And then I'd take it to the motion picture lab, process the rolls, get the color positive, and my wife would mount the slides,
Mhm.
the individual frames into slides.
Right.
And that was all well and good until the business got out of control and we got so busy, I
Right.
had to quit my job at the lab.
Of course, by then you had lost access to the processing equipment, right?
Absolutely. I was SOL. Okay. No place to go. But I had a good reputation in the industry. So I went to Technicolor
Mhm.
and said, would you do it? And it turned out that my first boss, the first lab manager, was the lab manager at that point at the Technicolor lab in New York City.
Right.
So he said, sure, we'll do it. Well, they did it one night and they said, this is too labor intensive for us for what we're getting.
Right.
If you see this fellow, he's got a video analyzer. And if you can video analyze the rolls and submit them to us, we'll do it.
Right.
It turned out that was my first supervisor who owned that other company that was
Right.
submitting to Technicolor. I mean, this is where our relationships in the business all work out.
Exactly.
So he said, sure, we'll do it.
Right.
So he and his partner did it one night and said, this is too labor intensive. You're going to have to do the video analysis yourself.
Mhm. Right.
Now, video analysis at the time used Hazeltine analyzers.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-year apprenticeship.
Right.
I had 20 minutes.
You had a lot of the expertise at the time coming in from obviously from RIT. You kind of knew a lot of the stuff probably instinctively.
I knew color theory. I knew motion pictures. I knew all this stuff, but I'd never done it. I was a supervisor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a different story. So that was all well and good. And then you asked how we ended up in a warm weather climate.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I would go in and use these fellows' equipment for, the first couple hours. I'd arrive at 7 o'clock in the
Right.
morning, use it until 9 o'clock when they arrived.
Yeah.
Then they'd kick me off and I'd be out. And one day I drove my car into town and it turned into a towaway zone at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was down there at 8:01 and my car was gone.
Oh gosh.
So I took my last $75 from my wallet, went down and bailed my car out, went home like a raging idiot,
Mhm.
and told my wife that in 2 weeks we were out of there. And she said,
Right.
where are we going? I
Right.
said, well, we're going to Florida. And that's how we ended up in Hollywood because they were the only municipality that had proper water control. And we
Okay.
accepted it. So that's a short story made long.
Well,
Sorry.
no, that's a great story. I love those kind of stories from especially people in the industry who start their own thing and always start small and then grow. For those who don't remember, movie film was very different than the color negative film that most people were used to. And there was other people, Seattle Filmworks or whatever, but you didn't stay in that business. I mean, you had that for a long time, but you also started processing other stuff, right?
Yeah, well, here was the key to it. If you step into a vacuum in business,
Right.
the money just comes pouring in. It's like a Vita where the money starts pouring in.
Right.
So using this model of giving out free film, and the film could not be processed by Qualix or anybody else in the industry because it had a carbon back, it would muck up their processing machines.
Right.
We had 2 years to grow. So in less than 2 years, I had 50 employees.
Right.
I'd made custom equipment up where we could print it. And then we started correcting the color of every single frame, color and density. So these were goofy slides. Then we started making prints. And then I said, well, why not just process, in addition to motion picture, regular C41 films?
Right. Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then the
makes sense.
digital age came. And then the digital age came, and again we had to modify.
Right.
Yeah, most of your people have gone through a lot of this.
Exactly. Because they sort of went from that either black and white or chrome period, and then you get into color negative, and then you get into print output at some point, then you kind of transition to digital, and you've been through all that. So what was the thing that you think contributed to the longevity of your business? Because you've been around 50 years, and that's a long time for a single ownership business to be in place.
Largely adaptability. Adaptability and working with people by the golden rule. I know that sounds kind of trite, but PMA was a huge, huge influence in everything I did. I used to go to all the conventions.
Right.
And one night they had a session with Zig Ziglar.
Right.
And Zig Ziglar was a motivational speaker who started out selling pots and pans from a poor family that could barely eat in East Texas, I think it was. And he gave me the key to wealth and prosperity.
Right.
Which is you can have anything you want in life, providing you help enough other people get what they want.
Right.
And that's largely how we run our business. And it doesn't make any difference whether or not it's professional photographers who need top quality prints, or a grandmother who's digitally challenged. Yesterday, we had a bunch of kids from a local school who had a photo project, and they didn't know how to crop properly. So they submitted orders to us for their class project. Needless to say, all of them came out wrong. We went out, we recropped all their images and gave them their prints. That makes it a less than profitable project. But the point is that these are kids, their families, and others who will become customers. You simply adapt to reality and never forget you're there to serve the customer.
It sounds very basic, but it seems like there's always people in the marketplace who are always trying to find ways around that, right? Can we take out people in a process and just have everything be automated, do everything online? And it's like, use AI chatbots or whatever. And it seems like, actually, if you want to actually grow in any business, you need to kind of lean into relationships. You need to lean into, because guess what? Human beings are what buy stuff.
Absolutely. You're right on the money. And the other thing you always have to remember in a business is every customer base is going to have attrition. You're going to lose a certain number of customers. People die, people lose interest.
Sure.
My father owned a butcher shop, and he had a very interesting low-tech approach when he ended up seeing business dropping off. I don't know if you remember those black with the white speckled notebooks that we had in elementary school.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He had one that was dog-eared and ragged, and he had all of his customers written down. So when business got slow, he'd pull out his notebook, look for a customer who hadn't ordered for a while, and telephone her. Ask about her kids, ask about her life, and reach out. Now, we do this today with online marketing digitally.
Sure, absolutely.
But the concept hasn't changed. It's simply reaching out, telling people we're here. I don't know what percentage of your listeners, viewers, actually use newsletters. but that's effectively the only way we advertise is newsletters.
Yeah. Because I remember you used to do a lot of like ads, and you were big into mailers and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's funny you mentioned like popular photography, because there was popular photography, there's modern photography. There was a bunch of photo publications like that was really the only way for people to reach avid photographers, right? People who were hobbyists and whatnot. Now it's much easier to target people, but like you said, I think it's hit or miss, right? I think I think people have so much advertising in their world that they kind of don't even see a lot of it, which is why I think like a newsletter is probably more appropriate for reaching your key customers.
Well, the idea is you provide a benefit at the beginning of the newsletter.
Right.
The benefit shouldn't be cheaper, cheaper, cheaper.
Right.
If you're just in a race to the bottom, you're not accomplishing much.
Right.
Yes, you can do that. And quite honestly, if you give a sale, 90% of the people who order will not actually take advantage of the sale.
Mm-hmm.
It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, I was going to say my head kind of tilted on that one. What? Okay.
It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Ask anybody who's in business, they know they can give a sale, and very few people actually take them up on it.
Right.
But those same people are receiving the message, hi, we're here. Hi, we can serve your needs. So generally, I will start my newsletters with a value proposition.
Right.
I'll give people tips on how to take pictures in the snow.
Right.
Not necessarily good for our local people.
Right. But certainly appropriate now.
So we send it out in a timely way. Something on cruise photography.
Right. Yeah.
How to take pictures on cruise ships.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's involved in my life and I find interesting, I try to just share with other people.
Yeah.
And that's essentially it.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of the adaptability that you've had to accomplish within your own environment, right? Because again, you started with the big cine processors and you transferred in other things, but you're still doing film. You're still, then you transition from optical printing to digital printing. What was that like? Because, you said to me in the past that your son has been involved in that transition from the optical to digital printing. What was that like?
Well, we got a very, very strange invitation from Kodak around just the past 2000, maybe 2003.
Yeah.
Kodak was trying to come up with a digital printer,
right.
Develop a digital printer with some programs that they had that were fabulous. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to hold on to the film business as long as possible.
Sure.
Do you remember they came out with APS as a format?
Yeah, and photo CD was the same idea. Let's keep film as a capture medium.
Absolutely. Analog capture, digital output. Mm-hmm. And actually, it was a wonderful idea, but it wasn't enough to stop the tsunami that ended up really hurting them so badly until they readjusted. And so they invited 5 companies up, and we were the only laboratory of any size. There was Minilab, there were camera dealers, and there were others. And their thought was they were going to try to develop with Graytag a machine that could go into drugstores and camera stores that would allow for film processing and printing in one small unit.
Sure.
And it didn't work out all the way they thought. They saw a 1-hour printing machine. I saw a possibility for the world's first professional printing machine to work and provide us prints for our professional customers.
Right.
And within 6 months, they had actually changed direction based upon the input that we had.
Right.
I had also recommended to them that they go in 2 directions instead of 1.
Right.
Not just with Graytag, with whom we had a wonderful relationship, but with Narita, so that they'd have 2 different directions for their software.
Right.
And then everything went well. They got the printers online ready to go.
Right.
They only had one problem. They hadn't sold any of these printers and they didn't have a market for them.
Right.
So it was sort of like The Godfather. They gave me an offer I couldn't refuse and gave me 24 hours. The offer was that I could become the Kodak seed processing laboratory This was a special process that would convert underwater photographs that
Right.
have a lack of light, usually would come cyan blue muck.
Yeah.
I could do this under the Kodak banner.
Right.
Well, how
So
could
for
I
all the people
refuse?
who were shooting scuba and dive pictures and things like that, which of course, was a big niche market, right? Because that was people weren't going to go digital for that. That was totally inappropriate at that time.
Nikon had a wonderful underwater
Oh,
film camera,
oh yeah, the Nikono series was great.
the Nikon series, and that was big.
Hmm.
So it was a whole different direction to go beyond our amateur photographers and our professional photographers.
Right,
And we went in that direction. And what I
right,
had to do was pay out $130,000 for a printing machine
right,
and then develop film mailers, design them for
right,
a mail order business, and
right,
then figure out how to service 20 different dive shops.
right,
And they gave me all of a month to do it. So again, it was ready, fire, aim.
right.
That's been the story of my life. It's adaptability.
Yeah. But it seems to me like, you realize there was probably, if you were going to have a relative exclusive on that, it was going to be, a good opportunity if you could make it happen.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're a pet owner who wants real talk on training, behavior, and everyday life with animals, check out the Fresh Patch Podcast. Hosted by Drew and Gabe, we cover the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. So wherever you listen, search the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it.
It gave us the excuse, the reason, and the economic rationale to get into digital printing.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that the Noritsu optical printers weren't great.
Right,
We started out with Kodak S printers, and there you'd have to test and retest and finally print because there was good but no cigar.
right,
The Noritsu printers, you could scan a frame and have a perfectly color balanced print come out the other end of the machines.
right.
So the idea of doing that with digital was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kodak did amazing work, and they came up with Kodak DP2.
Right,
DP2 is a quick explanation for listeners, is a relational database program that permits digital scanned information to go into a printing system and be translated in a way that produces optimum color and prints.
right.
Think of that as a Corvette, right?
Yeah.
But you have to give your customers a steering wheel and accelerator.
Right.
And with that, we went to SoftWorks Systems, and SoftWorks Systems has a program called ROES,
Right.
ROES,
Yep.
Remote Order Entry System, and that provided the user interface.
Yeah.
And then we have several other user interfaces for different customer groups.
Yep. I just saw the Rose folks a couple weeks ago. They're still around. I don't know. DP2 is kind of not readily available anymore, but Rose is still around.
Well, there are only 30 labs in the world, actually, that have a combination of ROES and DP2.
Yeah.
Miller's, Bay Photo, all the larger ones all have that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the key, the combination of quality control and quality and having a smooth flow through of work.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the reputation that Dale Laboratories has over the years. There's always been a stellar reputation among your customers. You've clearly solved the process piece and some of those things. But so what has been the key to longevity and success in that market to keep your reputation?
It's constantly staying on task and never forgetting that the customer, if not right, the rule of thumb is rule number one, the customer is always right.
Right.
And then rule number two, if in doubt, go back to rule number one.
Right.
That's what we did with these kids yesterday from the school. That doesn't change. Just treat people properly, honestly, and do the same with everyone you deal with, and you're fine.
And also you got to recognize that there are different people, there are different customer groups that have different needs, right? I mean, you're not serving just one type of photographer. You're serving a bunch of different flags from, pros to amateurs to advanced hobbyists to all those kind of people. And they're all you have to respond to each of those kind of differently.
Well, the other thing to understand is that a business needs to always underpromise and overdeliver.
Right.
If it wants to be long-lived.
Right.
An example of that is there are two levels of photographic paper.
Right.
You have consumer paper,
right.
which is Fuji Crystal Archive.
Right.
And then you have their professional papers.
Right.
The professional papers cost 30% more.
Right.
But we print primarily on everything other than proofing. We print on the professional papers.
Right.
And there's a very, very real difference in quality. You get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something I can really explain to my customers? Not really, but they know when they receive it.
When you're trying to demonstrate the advantages of the higher end Fuji paper, how do you do that? How do you talk to customers about that it's really worth that much more?
It's difficult, but the main thing to do is when they look at their prints, they say, wow. It's the wow factor that counts.
Yeah.
Because there really is a big difference between the two papers in the blacks and the saturation of the colors.
Right.
But they've developed a absolutely wonderful brand name for their consumer paper. Now, Kodak had their oil paper, which was very similar.
Yeah.
The challenge that a lot of labs right now, and we hadn't discussed this earlier, is going to be on whether or not with silver halide paper.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because we're all aware that the price of silver and gold is going through the roof.
Yeah.
And we only have one manufacturer of paper in the world now, and that's coming out of Europe.
Right.
That's Fuji paper.
Right.
So inkjet is being used in drugstores now, and inkjet looks fine. The problem with inkjet paper with giclée printing is that it's not physically durable.
Right.
It scratches really, really easily.
Yeah.
Where photographic paper, a photographic sheet, an 8x10 is good for 100 years.
Right.
And you can put your fingers on it. You can do anything else with it.
Right.
So maybe for future podcasts, you may want to have some of the labs and some photographers discuss how they feel about silver halide paper.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's happening. I know there's a lot of work being done for like laminated coatings and things like that to kind of give that real photographic feel to an inkjet or a toner-based print. And, and I think the people who do dye-sub prints are also doing some of that, right? There's laminated coatings people are trying to put on those too. So definitely there's a feel. And I think that's more of a technological challenge than a market break. If the market's there, I think the manufacturers will definitely try and make that happen. But, until then, so many people are just thrilled with silver halide. I know some of the labs they hope to get 10 more years out of it as a platform.
Well, hopefully, and that's dependent upon Fuji continuing to provide paper or Kodak resurrecting itself. Yeah. And understand that Eastman Kodak is not dead. They're producing all the film in the world now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of school, but Kodak is producing film under the Fuji name.
Oh, yeah,
well.
everyone. Yeah, that's an open secret. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, the question I guess they have is whether or not they want to get back into what's a decreasing market.
Right.
And from what I understand, Fuji moved their manufacturing out of the States to Europe.
Right.
Not because they didn't have huge capacity here.
Right.
But rather because the equipment they had in Europe allowed them more flexibility of producing multiple cuts on the same machine.
Yeah.
And they're a wonderful company to deal with.
Yeah.
So are the people at Kodak. Remember, Kodak DP2 is still part of Kodak. It may be a separately named company.
Yeah.
But they're still providing the technology that allows us and other major pro labs to produce their work.
Mm-hmm.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Is your podcast driving real results, or does it feel like a lot of effort with very little return? If you're a podcaster using your show to grow your business, then Podcasting Amplified is the podcast for you. You may have launched expecting listeners to flock in, but instead you're stuck on a handful of downloads while juggling recording, editing, promotion, and wondering what's missing. Well, Podcasting Amplified delivers no fluff episodes packed with real-world tips and strategies on positioning, recording, growth, and turning your podcast into something that actually supports your goals. So search Podcasting Amplified on your favorite podcast app today and start building a podcast that gets results.
You're obviously very bullish about the industry, right? Even though you've been having, 50 years of success and are looking for the future, but you're looking to transition beyond owning the companies. Can you talk a little bit about what you're looking to do to transition the company to another owner or an ownership group?
Well, I'd like to find one. I'm writing a book. If you look at my picture now, the question people might ask is, does this look like an 80-year-old fella?
Right.
Actually, I'm 81 going in 82.
There you go.
And we all have biological clocks.
Right.
I'd like to spend the next few years of my life doing something else. And I've in the final stages of writing a book called Reverse Aging, 100 Days to a Younger You.
Right.
And that book describes process control. Strangely enough, I mean, process control in film, but process control also works with the aging process.
Right.
So it's possible, and they have it in the blue zones where it's exhibited, to take the right mix of lifestyle and chemistry and literally push back the age, the biological age you have, so that I may be over 80, but I function at a 65-year-old level.
Right.
Start my day with 100 push-ups, 60 leg lifts, whatever.
Right.
And that's what I'd like to move to. Now, for somebody that really is into and loves photography, I can't think of a better turnkey operation than mine, because we have all the intellectual software, we have the location, we have a trained staff, and the full capability of actually starting. You couldn't start a photographic laboratory today at my level.
Right.
It would be virtually impossible. Even the permitting is difficult.
Yeah.
Environmental. So I'm open to anybody that wants to call and transition. Ideally, it's a person or a company that has really good marketing capabilities.
Right.
As it should be obvious, I'm an engineer. I'm not a marketing guy.
I've seen your webpage.
Right. It leaves much to be desired.
Right.
If a heads-up company could be out there and actually market our company well, it's like a rocket waiting to take off. And I have a dedicated staff of people ready to do it. The equipment's in place. And the lifestyle, I mean, people may like to get up to 0-degree temperatures, but I can walk my dog, and it's nice to have the sun in my face. At least, and not so much in July.
Right, exactly.
But at least in February. So that's it. So if anybody wants to discuss this with me, my number is 954-536-4290. And the other possibility is a company that wants to move laterally. Let's say they have a studio, and it's a large studio, and they'd like to bring their production in-house.
Right.
This is a great way to do it, and then have the other business, the regular business you're doing, as an offset to create a profitable business model.
Yeah.
And that's it. So thank you for asking the question.
I appreciate it. No, the reason why we reconnected is I saw you posted on LinkedIn that you were looking for a buyer for this, well-regarded, I would say almost legendary business in the film and digital printing process. And it was just interesting as we got to talk about it, that there's a lot of people right now who are either looking to sell or looking to pass the business on. And you're kind of taken from a standpoint of people are not just buying the past, but they're buying a potential for the future too, that there is future opportunity in the printing business that's probably been untapped.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a very, very common problem that I'm looking at. Many of us who have been successful, economically successful in life, have passed the ability on to our children where they can also be successful, but do it in their own right.
Right.
And so many businesses have young people, these sons and daughters of owners, who just simply aren't interested in the business.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, my son was raised, when he went into RIT, he put down that photography was the second language in our house.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He was raised with it.
Yeah.
But he owns Leica store in Miami now, and he's following his dreams. He takes avid photographers on tours around the world and brings them up to their level of photography, selling the best cameras out there, Leicas. I mean, Leica's like a Rolls Royce to other cameras, Lincolns and Cadillacs.
Yeah. And the people who have Leicas like to go on trips and have that community, and he's built a business around that. That's a whole other story.
And most of all, they have the do-re-mi.
Exactly.
They're affluent people who will collect. These people will turn in a camera with 1,000 activations so they can get the newer model and spend $10,000 to do it.
Yeah. It's a whole nother market. Whereas, again, you started out with people who wanted to start out with a free roll of film and get some processing. So it's a whole different world out there.
There are so many different markets and so many different ways. And we're so fortunate to be in this country where, literally, the way I told Gus, anybody who's got the luck and pluck and is willing to put in the perseverance can earn themselves a very, very nice, comfortable lifestyle. And just the ability to get in my car and do what I love to do as a hobby. I mean, I started at the age of 12. My first thrill was seeing a black and white print appear on a sheet of paper on a developing tray.
Right.
After that, I was hooked.
Right.
Photography is an addiction.
It's definitely a passion for a lot of people. It's a passion for a lot of people, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And it still is for me.
Well, thank you, Dale. It's been great to talk to you. I appreciate it. Again, where can people go to find out more about Dale Labs and the opportunity? You gave out your phone number, but is there a website set up to inquire on the opportunity?
Oh, as far as the opportunity, my phone number, I'll give you my email address. It's Dale Farkas, DALE FARKAS @Comcast.net.
Okay.
If somebody wants to see the unique way we handle film processing, go to the site bestfilmdeveloping.com, and it shows a whole new way of bringing in mail order film to a laboratory.
Okay. So I never checked that out. So there's Dale Labs and Best Film Processing.
DaleLabs.com and Best Film Processing.
Awesome.
The two sites. The one final thought is that we've changed from an area where everyone wants prints to, with film, they're going to analog capture on film.
Right.
And most of our customers want digital uploads they can use on screens and cell phones.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
And that's a whole other podcast.
It is. Yeah. A lot of people are doing that for sure. In fact, a lot of the people don't even, it's really weird. They don't even want their negatives back. It's just once they're scanned and uploaded, it's like, what do I do with this negative thing? Which is,
I'll tell you the honest truth. I will not do that. I guess I'm just an old fashioned guy.
Yeah. I can't throw away an egg.
I cannot emotionally handle trashing somebody's negatives.
Exactly. I know that. Awesome, Dale. Listen.
Thank you so much for your invitation.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.